All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of the College Court Report podcast. It is Monday, January 22nd. It's myself, Tyler Bennett, alone on Monday. Another exciting week of college basketball is now officially in the books. We are one step closer to March Madness. We are one step closer to crowning a new national champion in San Antonio. And then we are also one step closer to another long, dreary off season. So let's enjoy each day as it comes. Like I said, another exciting week has come and gone. The new rankings should be released at around 12 o'clock noon Eastern time today. Should be a lot of shakeup from last week. A couple big wins. St. Mary's over Gonzaga is one of them that comes to mind. Rhode Island should be ranked firmly inside the top 25 this week. But then again, with the AP voters, you never really know what direction they're going to go. So we'll look for those around noon today. But in this edition of the podcast, we're going to talk about a few teams and a couple conferences in general that really don't get enough attention, if you will. They are kind of the butt end of a lot of jokes in and around the college basketball community, and for good reason, in a sense. They haven't really given fans enough to be positive about, especially in non-conference play. They find themselves in a lot of bye games with power conference schools kind of for them to pad their schedule. Georgetown comes to mind as an honorary member of the MEAC conference. We'll get to them in a little bit. But want to start things off with, in my opinion, one of the biggest surprises in college basketball so far, at least in non-conference play, has been the Arkansas-Pine Bluff Golden Lions out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, or the SWAC. And like I said, the SWAC is one of those conferences that gets overlooked by a lot of media, by a lot of fans in general. Not many people outside of those schools follow the conference until the tournament rolls around, and they have to study up to see who this 15 seed, who this 16 seed is that a Michigan State or a Virginia or a North Carolina is playing in the first round. Nobody really knows much about these teams until tournament time rolls around. But I can tell you right now, the SWAC is home to two of the better small schools in conference play right now, with Arkansas-Pine Bluff and Jackson State, who are 1 and 2 in the conference standings through the first 3 weeks. So a little bit on the Golden Lions this season. They had a rough go in non-conference play. They went 0-14. Only 3 of their games were decided by single digits, and their closest game was 6 points against Tennessee Martin in their non-conference finale. They lost by 6 points, 74-68, I believe. They went 0-3 at the Outriggers Resorts Rainbow Classic in Hawaii to open the season. They had a 9-point loss to North Dakota there, and then they also had a 9-point loss on the road at Pacific later on. Those are the only 3 non-conference games they had that were decided by single digits. You have a 10-point loss to Air Force. That's about it. And then they come into conference play, and it's a new team. They've won 6 straight games, 4 of which have been on the road, which is even more impressive given their track record in non-conference play. They've shown that they have the ability now to win those close games. They didn't have that ability in non-conference when they lost those 3 single-digit games. But if you go through what they've done so far in SWAC play, they opened up with a road win over Mississippi Valley State, 80-71. Went on the road, took down Alabama A&M, 69-62. They thumped Alabama State, 94-68. Then they came home for their first 2 games, beat a talented Southern team at home by 2 in overtime, beat Alcorn State, who's without Reginald Johnson, shorthanded Braves team, 71-59. And then just over the weekend on Saturday, they went on the road to Prairie View A&M, who you may remember won the visitors bracket of the MGM Grand main event in Las Vegas. They beat them by 6 on the road. So all of a sudden, you have an Arkansas-Pine Bluff team who is 6-0 in conference play. They are the only undefeated team in SWAC play. And all of a sudden, they're the team to beat in the conference. Now, they have a big game coming up on Monday, later tonight actually, on the road again at Texas Southern, who was the preseason favorite in the conference, with star guard DeMontre Jefferson. The Tigers are currently 4-2 in conference play, so they're 2 games behind the Golden Lions. A win for Arkansas-Pine Bluff over a team like Texas Southern, a program that more fans, I wouldn't say a lot of fans, but a higher number of fans have come to know over the last few seasons, given their dominance of the SWAC, if you will, and the ability to utilize these talented players. Zach Lofton played here before he transferred out. As I mentioned, DeMontre Jefferson as well. But the fact that Arkansas-Pine Bluff has been able to come in to SWAC play and really put non-conference play behind them and play at such a high level, at a high clip, and keep that momentum going win after win after win after win is impressive. And you add in 4 of those 6 wins have been on the road, and they have their 5th road game tonight against Texas Southern. They're able to come out of this at 7-0 or maybe 6-1 if they do happen to see their streak come to an end. Winning 4 of your first 7 games in conference play on the road is a big boost for your confidence moving forwards. And the fact that the majority of their games now are at home the rest of the way, you have to think of the Golden Lions as the favorite to win the SWAC. And a win over the Tigers, again, would assert themselves as the top dog in the conference this season. And it goes to show you that preseason rankings are just noise. The Tigers were picked first. If the Golden Lions come in and win, who cares about the preseason? The Golden Lions don't. They don't care who you had first, second, third, last, for all they care. They are coming into this game in first place. They are coming into this game on Monday as the team to beat. And a win over the Tigers would reaffirm the fact that the winner of the SWAC regular season title, they have to go through Pine Bluff, Arkansas in order to claim that title and guarantee themselves at least a spot in the NIT. So, leading the way, when I talked to Ryan on Friday in our podcast, I told him that one of my games to watch over this past weekend was Arkansas-Pine Bluff and Prairie View A&M. And I said, remember the name Martavius McKnight. And I think, a little sarcastically, Ryan went, Martavius McKnight, Martavius McKnight, Martavius McKnight. I hope he remembered the guy's name, Martavius McKnight, because he went for 39 points against Prairie View in their 6-point win. He is now averaging over 26 points a game in conference play. He's averaging 26.2 points, 5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, over 3 steals a game, shooting 52.5% from the field and over 53% from 3-point range. The junior guard he's unbelievable. He has carried this team in conference play to a 6-0 record. For the season, 19.6 points, 3.7 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1.8 steals, over 45% shooting from the floor, and over 38% from 3. The 6'6 junior is the favorite right now to win the SWAC Player of the Year award. I don't think there's any question in my mind that he is leading the way in that category, and he is the man to beat. He is incredibly talented, flew under the radar, obviously in non-conference play with their record being as it is. But he has 5 games with 20 or more points in conference play, including his 39-point barrage last game. It's incredible. And when you add in that the Golden Lions have veteran players like Trent Steen, you got Joe Randall Tolliver, Trayvon Harper, they have that veteran group that's leading the way. And then you add in guys like freshman Terrence Banyard and junior Martavius McKnight. This team has that combination. And junior Charles Jackson. You add all these pieces together. You have the veteran core leaders in Steen and Tolliver and Harper. You have a guy like McKnight who can score in bunches and fill up the stat sheet on both ends of the floor. You have a young guy in Terrence Banyard to build around as you go forward. And if they can keep McKnight in the fold for next season as well, you have to like their outlook moving forward in the SWAC. Really, this could be the season that they put the Golden Lions on the map, at least for a couple seasons. If they're able to continue this stretch into the postseason and make it to the NCAA tournament in March. I think that'd be their second ever trip to the big dance. That'd be fantastic. But the way they've been playing over the last 6 games, and the fact that really nobody's talking about them, is a bit of a surprise, because they've been playing so well, and in a conference where it's always been, or at least for the last few years, it's been Texas Southern and everybody else. Well, here's Arkansas-Pine Bluff coming in saying, what about us? Why is anybody talking about us? And that could work in their favor. They could fly under the radar and really catch some people off guard. But this is a talented roster that shouldn't go unnoticed. And Arkansas-Pine Bluff is the team to beat in the SWAC. And on the road Monday night against Texas Southern, they're going to go to 7-0. I'm going to say right now that the Golden Lions will beat the Tigers to assert themselves as the team to beat in the SWAC this season. They will beat Texas Southern on Monday night on the road and assert themselves as the team to beat in the SWAC. And Martavius McKnight will be the Conference Player of the Year. Mark it down and do what you got to do. Hold me to it. I have no shame. This team is a team that people should be talking about before March rolls around. Because if you see them on your line come tournament time, they're going to give you a fight. They didn't put up a big fight in non-conference, I get that. But they've started to find their groove. They've hit their stride. And they'll give you a fight all 40 minutes. I'm not saying they'll win in March, given whoever they play. They will give you a fight. They will make you work 40 minutes for your win. And I just hope that they can keep Martavius McKnight in the fold for next season and carry any success they have this season into next with him as the focal point of their program for another season. I really hope that's the case. But remember the name Martavius McKnight. Remember the name Trent Steen. Remember the name Joe Randall Tolliver. Remember the name Terrence Banyard. Remember the Arkansas-Pine Bluff Golden Lions, and keep an eye on their game tonight against Texas Southern to see if the Golden Lions can move to 7-0. I think they will. But only time will tell, and that's why games are played. You can talk about it all you want, but that's why games are played. And when you talk about the SWAC, the MEAC, or the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, they are not far behind in terms of being the butt end of jokes in the college basketball world. I have a thing for small schools and smaller conferences. I love it. I love all of college basketball, but these underappreciated conferences, underappreciated schools, the small schools that nobody really talks about until March, have a soft spot with me. I love them. And the MEAC's no different. You've got a bit of a surprise this season at the top. And you've got two teams at 5-0. North Carolina A&T, who are 12-8 overall, 5-0 in conference play. And you've got Bethune-Cookman, who are 11-9 overall and 5-0 in conference play. The Aggies were picked 13th in the preseason poll. 13th. And for those of you keeping score at home, that's last place. They received 79 votes or points. Everyone else received over 100. So they weren't just last. They were last by a long shot. Then you have Bethune-Cookman. The Wildcats were picked 9th. They're tied for first through 5 games. And that just confirms that preseason rankings are just noise. They're ridiculous. Preseason top 25s, preseason polls and rankings and everything are noise. And everybody's guilty of it at some point. I've done it myself personally. I've done rankings before. And looking back on it, they are just that. They are noise. Nothing more than that. That's why games are played. And the Aggies and Wildcats are perfect examples of why you shouldn't get caught up in the rankings and just play basketball. The Aggies have won 5 straight. The Wildcats have won 6 straight. They opened up conference play with 5 straight wins, sorry. 4 straight wins. And then they went on the road, picked up a 12-point win over in-state rival Stetson for Volusia County supremacy. And then they went on the road and beat Delaware State to get back in the grind of conference play. They're in the midst of a 4-game road swing. They've won their first 2 on the road, and they've won 6 straight overall. These two teams are firing on all cylinders. They have really shown that we don't care about your rankings. We're just going to play ball and win games. And the Aggies and Wildcats only meet once in the regular season this year. They don't meet until the second last game of the regular season on February 26th. If all goes according to plan, it's a bit of a stretch, but realistically, you could make the case that these teams could be undefeated when they play on the 26th. Now, that's a far-fetched estimation, given the fact that they have to play teams like North Carolina Central, who have been to the NCAA tournament. They know what it takes. Teams like Morgan State, who were the preseason favorite. Teams like Savannah State, who are now eligible for the postseason after originally not. And they have one of the highest scoring offenses and one of the fastest offenses in the country. It's tough to see them meeting on the 26th of February undefeated, but the fact that through the first 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of conference play, teams that were picked 9th and 13th are tops in the conference tells you something about these teams. And when you look at Bethune-Cookman, you've got a veteran group of, you got Brandon Tabb, who's averaging 18 points and 4 rebounds a game, making his mark from 3-point range. I mean, he's only shooting 35%, but if he gets hot and he's shooting majority of 3-pointers, he's going to put up points in bunches. He hit 5 3-pointers in the last game against Delaware State, put up over 20 points again. You've got Isaiah Bailey, who is stuffing the stat sheet on both ends of the floor. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Forwards, Shontrez Davis, averaging 13 points, 8.5 rebounds. The list goes on. They have 5 guys averaging at least 10 points a game and at least 25.5 minutes a game. Remarkable depth for Ryan Ritter in his first year as the head coach of the Wildcats. Then you look at the Aggies, kind of an unknown coming into the season, given the fact that they were picked last. Lost leading scorer Sam Hunt. Had several key guys graduate after last season. In comes forward Femi Olajobi. Hot out of the gates, burst onto the scene. He's cooled down a bit, but in his first season, 19 points, 7.5 rebounds, 1 assist, shooting 53% from the field, over 36% from 3. Add in a veteran guy like Devontae Boykins, 9.5 points. Aaron Edmeade, 9 points. Devaris McGowens, 7.5 points. These teams may not have the biggest names on their roster, but you can bet they play hard. They're using their depth. They're using their balance to really keep teams off balance and win consistently and build momentum night in and night out and carry this momentum into the thick of conference play, and they're really making noise in a positive way. So it's really refreshing to see the Aggies and Wildcats, who were picked in the bottom third of the MEAC preseason rankings, really rise to the occasion and essentially prove everybody wrong. So good on them for playing the way they have and keeping that momentum going. And hopefully, for a selfish reason, we can see them both continue their strong play and go into February 26th undefeated and essentially play for the regular season title. Again, far-fetched prediction, far-fetched hope, but you've got North Carolina Central and Savannah State nipping at their heels at 4-1. You've got South Carolina State 3-2, Morgan State 3-3, Norfolk State 2-2. All these teams are within striking distance. You've got a lot of teams within 3 games of the lead. So really the MEAC through 5-6 games, really anybody's conference right now. But it's nice to see the Aggies and the Wildcats atop the conference. And then from there, you head to the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, where you have Canisius. The Golden Griffins, who were another team that was kind of overlooked and underrated in the preseason, who have risen to the top of the conference. They went on the road this weekend, completed a 2-game road sweep in the state of New York. Road win over Manhattan on Friday, 68-59. Then they go into New Rochelle on Sunday and pick up a 2-point road win over Iona, the preseason favorite in the MAAC. 84-82. Incredible. 7-1, 13-8 overall. 4 straight wins in 9 of their last 10. They're playing incredible basketball. And we had the chance to go see them last Sunday when they played Monmouth, the Hawks, when they were down by 13 early, ended up going into the breakdown 2, and then really pulled away in the second half to come away with a 15-point win. That was fantastic. And some people have called Canisius pretenders. And I think after this weekend, they've proven to everybody in the college basketball world that they are indeed contenders. They are the real deal. They have shown that they can beat the top teams in the conference. They have a season sweep over Iona. They won at home in their second conference game, 85-78. Then they followed up with a road win. They beat Manhattan, who many predicted to be a top 4 team, myself included. They picked up a win over Ryder, who've been a bit of a surprise. They've got Niagara this coming week on Friday. That'll be a big test. Little down the highway rivalry, if you will. Canisius has really shown that they are a bit ahead of their time. I said at the start of the season that they have one of the best backcourts in the conference, and I stand by that case. Malik Johnson, Isaiah Reese, Spencer Foley, freshman Takal Molson has really burst onto the scene this season. DJ Heath, freshman as well. They have options on the back end. Then you go up front with big man Jermaine Crumpton, the senior. Salvadin Planincic, Canadian, 6'11 center, senior. Markel Lotz, junior. Scott Hitchin, the freshman. Jabril Faulkner coming off the bench. Richie Witherspoon has options. He has a solid rotation, and the starting 5 that he's used over the last 9 games, 10 games, of Reese, Crumpton, Molson, Johnson, Planincic. They're 9-1. 9-1 in 10 games since Sully, they call him Sully, has come into the starting lineup, the big man in the middle. Malik Johnson is probably the top up-and-coming point guard in the conference. 4.7 assists per game to only 2 turnovers. Remarkable. Freshman Takal Molson, 12.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, just shy of 3 assists as a freshman. Isaiah Reese, frontrunner for MAAC Player of the Year, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2.5 steals, shooting 91.7% from the free throw line. These guys are finding ways to win, and they have proven that they deserve to be at the top, especially with the regular season sweep over Iona. They beat the top dog on their floor and went on the road and beat them on the Gales floor. That's hard to do. They've done both already. And they're only 8 games in. They've got their biggest test out of the way, and they came out with a perfect 10. Canisius is the team to beat in the MAAC. They've proven that through 8 games. And anybody who says they're a pretender, they're only fooling themselves. They're only fooling themselves. The list goes on and on for the good things you can say about Canisius over the last 10 games. The talent they have on offense and defense, their ability to bounce back from a slow start like they did against the Hawks last weekend on Sunday. And when their back was against the wall down 13 early, they stuck to their game. They found their groove. They started making their shots. Went into the half down 2, came out in the second half carrying that same momentum and really took it to the Hawks. They played their basketball. They didn't change. Now, Witherspoon did empty the bench a little bit. Hitchin played quite a few minutes early in the first half. Went down with an injury, ankle injury, but came back in the second half. Jabril Faulkner has only played 4 games this season. But in his last couple games, he's really hit his stride. Went for 13 points against Iona this past weekend. Went for 12 against the Hawks. Sorry, he's played 5 games this year now with Sunday on his resume. He has 2 double-digit scoring games in his last 3 outings. That just adds another weapon off the bench. The rotation for Canisius. So, again, for anybody who says that Canisius is a pretender, you're only fooling yourself. Yes, they're young. Yes, they're unproven. To an extent. But I think now they've proven themselves with those wins over Iona, with the win on the road at Manhattan, with their ability to win those close games and really bounce back when their back's against the wall. And that experience alone will carry them into the postseason, and they can turn some heads. They've turned mine already. That's for sure. Maybe you'll get on board soon too. But you've got Arkansas-Pine Bluff, who've won 6 straight games in the SWAC. Big game on Monday night against Texas Southern. You've got North Carolina A&T, Bethune-Cookman, sitting at 5-0 in the MEAC. You've got Canisius, winners of 9 of their last 10. There's a lot of teams across the country, outside of power conferences, that are playing incredible basketball, but nobody's talking about them. There are 351 schools in Division I. Yet, all that people want to focus on are maybe the 60, 70 that are in the power conferences. That's got to change. There's so much talent in Division I basketball that goes unnoticed night in and night out. That has to change. Look at these small schools. You may not recognize 9/10 of the names on the rosters. You may not even know where the school is located. But watch some of these guys play. These guys at smaller schools play just as hard, if not harder, than guys at a power conference school. And at the end of the day, all these guys are striving for the exact same thing, to play basketball at the next level. And whether that's at a Duke and a Michigan State, or an Arkansas-Pine Bluff and a North Carolina A&T. From 1 to 351, a lot of these guys have the exact same goal. Get an education, play basketball at a professional level, whether it's the NBA, the G League, overseas in Bosnia, for all I know. They're playing the game they love, and don't be afraid to sit down and watch smaller schools go at it. You won't be disappointed. But with that, that'll wrap up today's edition of the podcast. I will be back on Wednesday night with Nico Wright, taking a look at action from Monday and Tuesday, and getting you set up for the midweek action Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then myself and Ryan will be back on Friday to break down the week that was and the weekend that will be. But until then, thank you for tuning in, and we will chat with you on a Wednesday morning. Cheers. Enjoy the week.